Hello students, welcome to week 6 for COM 555. This week we're looking at digital media and influence, and we're looking at how those areas pertain to the course content. We are also reading our networked text. Remember, you are at any point in that text as you want. It's not particularly assigned chapters. You just have to finish it before the book review is due in week 7. And you're also reading the slave route handout that's attached within Blackboard. You're watching 3 videos related to the slave route project awareness put on by the UNSCO. That's assigned to a particular assignment this week, so it's really important that you keep that in mind as you watch those videos. We also have discussion board number 6 due on Friday with reply posts due on Sunday, as well as our digital media campaign analysis number 2. The discussion board number 6 asks you to look at the networked text and discuss the impact and influence of digital communication, as well as its effect on interpersonal relationships. After reading about those particular concepts within the text, you need to provide an analysis of your thoughts on the effects of digital communication and what those have on interpersonal relationships. You need to compare at least 2 research articles about this topic and share your findings, as well as providing a brief synopsis for each article. Remember, your original post needs to be at least 400 words at a minimum, and that's due on Friday with your replies due on Sunday. As you work through your digital media analysis number 2, you are going to be looking at the slave route awareness campaign provided by the UNESCO. And so what happened is what you'll be doing is the same thing you did for the first one with the World Health Organization and the Ebola crisis. You're going to be providing a summary / situational analysis of the topic, describing what communication exists about the topic, analyzing all the global digital media coverage related to the topic, as well as particular news coverage of that. That's very important to keep in mind. You're going to be looking at everything I've provided you about it and analyze the communicative aspects of this campaign, but you also need to provide specific 3 examples of media coverage, web posts, pictures, and things of that nature. So don't forget to do that. Some of you did leave that part out, and it kind of hit you in your grade a little bit. So keep that in mind. So structure it and write it as if you did the media analysis number 1. We're just doing it now on the UNESCO slave route campaign. So in 1994, the UNESCO decided to work to build awareness of the slave route from Africa to Europe to shed light and the U.S., to shed light on the deplorable treatment and living conditions for those that were forced into slavery from Africa. The short-term goals were just to specifically build awareness of this historical slave routes, treatment and conditions of slaves, as well as to shed light on new and contemporary forms of slavery worldwide. So the UNESCO determined, look, what happened hundreds of years ago to people that were forced into slavery from Africa was not okay. The treatment was deplorable, the living conditions were terrible, and nobody should be forced to do anything, especially be forced into slavery. So they wanted to, from a short-term perspective, build awareness of what that route was like for those coming from Africa to either Europe or US, just to build awareness among current generations and young children and young adults to know about that. They also wanted, though, to use this as an opportunity to say, look, slavery is not dead. There are new and contemporary forms of slavery that are happening worldwide, and this is what you need to be aware of. The UNESCO stated that their programmatic goals in this sense were to essentially break the silence on slave trade and slavery in various regions of the world from historical and contemporary perspectives, as well as to shed light on the traumas and consequences of those events and the multiple transformations they brought about, and explore cultural interactions born on those that were forced into these types of encounters, which have given rise to great diversity within our society from obvious perspectives. They wanted to also contribute to reflection of new challenges and the stakes to that modern society needed to address this particular topic. They launched a global communication campaign that lasted 20 years. It went from 1994 to 2014. It utilizes traditional and new media technologies because there were a lot of communicative technological changes from 94 to 2014, if you can imagine, with the internet and the advent of the smartphone and things of that nature. So they utilized many different forms of media to spread awareness about this topic. Their primary goals was really really to ignite attitude changes. So they use attitudinal goals more than behavioral or awareness goals towards historical rhetoric about slavery. The primary results found that the campaign contributed substantially to fostering greater awareness of ethical, political, and socioeconomic as well as cultural aspects of this dark chapter within world history. So that's a brief overview of what this was about. I've provided you with videos and a handout about this, but you need to do some research on your own to see what it is that was out there about it. What did you remember hearing about between 94 and 2014? That's a 20-year span that was related to this initiative. Did they really reach those that they needed to reach? Consider some of those things as you do your digital media analysis number 2. One concept to keep in mind that's important at this point in the semester is hegemony. Ideology is related to concepts such as worldview, belief systems, and values. Ideological perspectives are concerned with what messages these images send about the nature of the world, how it operates, and things of that nature. Hegemony connects questions of culture, power, and ideology together. It considers that there's a dominant group that exerts cultural and social control over another group, primarily through the use of media. This type of power is wielded at the level of cultural and ideological perspectives, not just through the use of force. Gramsci typically argued that a ruling majority group can maintain their power through forced consent and a combination of those two things, but it's considered to be an ideological domination that's very subtle in its control. So an ideological domination from a communicative perspective is directly related to hegemony, this idea that connects culture, power, and ideology from a dominant group exerting its cultural and social control over another group utilizing media. So keep these things in mind as you're going through a lot of the course content. It's very, very important to see it from that perspective. From a theoretical perspective this week, I want to make sure you all understand what elaboration likelihood theory is. You've had this if you've taken a class from me before and other classes, but in looking at digital communication strategies and digital media and influence, elaboration likelihood is of the utmost importance. ELT typically contends that it's the probability that you will evaluate information critically. It's a persuasive theory that predicts when and how you will use information and how you will be persuaded by messages. It tells us that all information is received via 2 routes from a cognitive perspective. We either process information from the central route, where critical thinking always occurs, or the peripheral route, where we tend to passively think or passively pass off and use tacit approval in many communicative situations. There are 3 types of motivations from an ELT perspective. So we determined to use the central, the peripheral route based off of 3 types of motivation. Involvement, how involved or closely related we are to the communication. Diversity of argument, what are they doing to diversify how they are trying to persuade us? And the personal predisposition, how are we personally connected or predisposed to being interested in this idea? If we meet any of those ideas, we are typically will determine we need to just passively pass this off. I have a personal predisposition to this topic, so whatever they say isn't going to influence me, and I'm going to process it through my peripheral route, where I'm just going to nod my head and say, oh, okay, thanks. The central route is where I tend to critically think about what they're saying. I tend to question what those may be or may not be. So when we look at this, we can see how this cognitively flows. So communication comes from us through a source message channel perspective. We have to attend to it and provide comprehension based off of those 3 points of involvement, diversity of argument, and personal predisposition to the topic. We will determine if we want to send it up to the central route, or determine innately if we want to send it down through the peripheral route. So the central route involves a high level, a high involvement processing and the cognitive responses and beliefs and attitude changes to ignite behavior change. The peripheral route is really low involvement processing. We just listen and we tacitly approve or disapprove the information. We adopt a behavior change without looking into any outside sources because of it. A belief change, which then turns into a behavior change, which turns into an attitude change. The central route means we more critically evaluate it. Somebody tells us we need to adopt this behavior, and we think, we do research, we determine a number of different factors before we actually ignite a belief and attitude change. The peripheral route means that we just don't blatantly say yes to things, but we don't do any outside research to it. So somebody says, hey, you know what? Soda is bad for you. You shouldn't drink soda anymore. You trust what they say. You have a personal predisposition to trusting them, and you just say, okay, I'm not going to drink soda anymore. You don't look into any of the other outside sources about it to determine if that's right for you or right for your family or anything like that. So that's kind of the different things. A central route, you would maybe say, let me see what the research says about that. I want to know this, this, and this, and this, and this, and so on and so forth. So you tend to look at things and make determinations between how you critically evaluate and come to decisions, or how much research you're going to use in making your decision based off of either your involvement in the situation, the diversity of argument that they provide, or the personal predisposition you have to that particular topic. So keep that in mind as we're moving through the content. You can maybe analyze some of those goals from the Slave Route Project from ELT. How often do you think people use the central or the peripheral route to believe the information they had to say, so on and so forth, if you'd like. Keep in mind we are on week 6. We are doing our discussion board number 6, which is due Friday. Replies due on Sunday, and our digital media campaign analysis number 2. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you this week, and I pray you all have a blessed week. God bless.